Hi guys, it's Emily at Upstage Dance Center, and I'm here with Mackenzie. We're going to show you guys how to do the team low bun for the season. So we're going to start with her hair. Now, when you're prepping hair, it's really important to take the type of hair that your child has into consideration. So Mackenzie has thick, kind of naturally wavy hair, so she hasn't washed her hair yet. It hasn't been washed in a couple days, but that kind of gives her a little bit of extra texture. It gives her a little bit of extra grip. So her hair is gonna take better to the style. If you have a child who has really straight, fine hair, they'll need to make sure that they wash their hair probably the day before, because usually that type of hair gets a little bit oily when it hasn't been washed. So just depending on the type of hair that your child has, know that the prep for that is gonna be a little bit different. Also, if your child does have hair that is really fine, you're probably gonna need to put a product in it so that it can take a little bit more of the texture, and it's gonna hold those ponytails and with the bobby pins and all of that stuff. So if you have naturally textured hair, you're probably not gonna need to do that extra step. So we're just gonna start. I'm gonna part her hair first, and I'm just like lining this up with the center of her nose and coming back. So I'm putting that right there, and then I'm just using a comb to pull it straight back. And then once you do this, you kind of just want to check and adjust and make sure that it's truly in the center and it's truly straight. So I'm just going to kind of readjust things a little bit, and then I'm going to check her from the front to make sure that it's in the center of her head. So she has a little bit of this hair right here that's just kind of naturally, she's got a cowlick right there, so it looks like it's not centered, but it is. So she looks good, and from here we are going to just straighten the sides of her hair. So the entire bulk, she has a lot of hair, we don't need to straighten all of this. We're only gonna straighten these front parts that are getting pulled back into the bun, because those parts need to look really smooth and slick. So, and again, if your child needs a product to be able to straighten, then use it. If not, then you don't have to do that. So I'm just taking small sections of her hair and just smoothing them out. And what I'm gonna do, because she has that natural texture and natural wave to her hair, I'm kind of angling the straightener as I pull it through. I'm pulling it and then twisting it so that it's almost creating a curl under, so that when those hairs are pulled back, those extra little baby flyaway hairs aren't gonna poke out. So if you're just straightening it without that extra curl, then some of those hairs might end up poking out, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna get really close to her head up here. If you're uncomfortable with that, then you can take a small comb and you can put it right at the base of the head, and then that's gonna kind of create a barrier for when you're doing the straightener. You know you're not gonna hit their scalp. So. And then if you need to go over a section a couple of times because they have very textured, very curly hair, then just kind of go over that again. And you don't want to pull the straightener through too slow, because you don't want to leave it on the hair for too long and create any heat damage. But if you go too fast, it's not going to really do its job. So you have to really make sure that you are kind of taking a second in each position where that straightener is on the hair to let it actually straighten. And every once in a while, you can kind of just check to see if you pull that back, is it going to actually lay flat? And you can use products for flyaways or hairs that don't want to cooperate, but for the most part, it should lay pretty well. Just you using your hands to push it down and check. And then in the back, all I'm doing is straightening the top section. So basically the first, about this much of her hair, because that's really the only part that's gonna be pulled down into the bun. So the hair that's in the bun, I'm not worrying about straightening that. So down here, I'm not straightening any of this hair, if you can see that. So I'm just straightening about this much right here, because all of that, when I pull it down flat, it should be able to lay against her head nicely. So once I get down here, Mackenzie has these little curly hairs right here. Turn your head to the side for me. So all of these right here, I'm just gonna do my best to get those nice and straight, and then I'll just kind of pull them back over her ear. If I need to use a bobby pin, I will. If not, then hopefully hairspray and some product will make it lay flat. So again, if you want to use a comb or something like that to separate your iron from the head, you can. If not, just do your best to get close. And this is something that as you do it more, it'll be a little bit more comfortable. You're not gonna feel as nervous that you're gonna burn your child's face or scalp. It just kind of comes with practice. So now those hairs are gonna pull back nicer. Okay. All right, so we've got most of her hair, all of that part that's gonna be pulled back that needs to be nice and polished. We've got all of that straightened, and as you can see, a lot of her hair is still not straightened. So this is not gonna be an issue because it's not gonna be seen. It's gonna be tucked up in the bun. So we're not really worried about straightening all of that. All right, so I'm gonna have her turn it around now and we will get started on the back side. Okay, so now that we've got her hair straightened, I'm gonna section off the front pieces that we're gonna pull back at the end and make them really nice and smooth. So just turn your head to the side for me. I'm basically just taking a chunk from her ear and then slicing that straight up. And then I'm gonna keep that sectioned off, and that's what we're gonna use at the very end to pull back and make that nice and smooth. Now, if your child has really, really thick hair, you might wanna take a little bit more of this out in the center, just so that it's not this big section that's laying down and making extra bulk. So basically all I'm gonna do is just take this, twist it forward, and then I'm gonna pin it underneath her chin. And then once I pull the other side forward, I'll pin those together. It'll make like a little beard. So I've already got a hairband on my hand, and this is a really good idea if you are just gonna grab the hair and then just pull it off. So it makes it a little bit easier when you go to transition from smoothing to actually holding. So as you're pulling these hairs back, really try not to, can you tilt your head this way? Really try not to comb over that part or else it's just gonna disappear. So we want to kind of leave it a little bit further back from where those sections are. So this is the amount of hair that I left off for those front sections, and I wanna leave about the same amount of hair back here. And then anything beyond that, I'm just gonna brush through and smooth that out. You can go back to normal. So I'm just kind of finger combing that through to make sure everything's nice and in place. And then once I start smoothing this out, I'll probably need to use a product. Now, since her hair is a little bit dirty and she has that texture where the dirt actually helps with her hair, I'm not gonna need to use a ton of product, but normally what I would use is a gel and then a firm hold hairspray. So over here on the sides where it is a little bit flyaway-ish, I am gonna add some gel to those spots. And I actually have a ponytail holder on each hand because if I transfer the ponytail from one hand to the other, I don't want to have to then go through the steps of transferring it back again, because sometimes that can cause hairs to fall out and just not look as polished as what you want. And this takes some playing with, so it's not something that's just you're gonna brush back and it's just gonna be perfect and you're good to go. You are gonna have to brush through it and readjust things and put more gel in or put more hairspray in. So depending on how cooperative the hair that you're working with is, you're gonna have to play with it for a while to make it look how you want. Okay. So I'm gonna change hands right here. And then, let's see. I'm trying not to disrupt any of like the pattern of the way her hair lays. So I'm letting all of that lay nice and straight down. So I'm not making it do anything weird or unnatural. Now, if we have some sections that are not quite perfect, it's okay, because we're gonna go back in a minute and just kind of go over them. So make sure once you pull that ponytail through the first time that you pull it really tight, so that way it doesn't then move as you're wrapping it and twisting it and all of that. So the first one I wrapped really, really tight, and then everything pretty much is gonna stay in place from there. I think I should be able to get it one more time. Maybe. Nope. I feel like I'm gonna break this band. Not cooperating. There we go. Okay, so if that happens, just try to pull it through, try not to disrupt anything, and then just take your brush at the end and make sure that you're holding it anytime you brush the ponytail after it's already secured. You want to make sure that you hold it really tight at the base and not let any of those tangles that you're brushing out pull weird on the ponytail, because then it's going to disrupt what the hair looks like on the head. Okay. So as you can see, there's a few little sections where it's a little kind of puffy, so we're just going to use bobby pins to fix that. It's not a big deal. Once I've got the bun or the ponytail started, I'm going to just start the bun, okay? So I'll fix the rest of the stuff at the end with the bobby pins, but go ahead and look down for me just a little bit. Yep. So I'm just going to twist the hair, and again, I just brushed through it so it's nice and smooth. So I'm just going to start twisting the hair to the right. Usually whatever way you twist the hair is also going to be the direction of the bun. So since I'm twisting the hair to the right, it's going to end up spiraling to the right. Okay. So as I'm twisting this, I'm just going to start by laying it down next to her head, and then I'm going to hold it there, and I'm going to grab a bobby pin. And when you put your bobby pins in, the way that is going to make them kind of hold the strongest is if you kind of thread it through. So instead of going in from this direction right here, I'm going to actually kind of hook it into the hair. So I'm going to hook it going away, and then I'm going to pull it back in and push it back toward it. Okay, so I'm going this way and then this way. And then I'm just going to do a couple more up at the top. So I hooked it, and then I'm pushing it back in. And you really want to make sure you get all of the angles of that loop that you've just created, so that none of them start to pop off the head and look weird. Okay, so once I've got that started, then I'm going to start to add in the side pieces. Okay, you can look up again. So all of this, can you actually look to the side? So all of this, I'm just going to go through, I'm going to smooth it out with my hand, and then I'm going to use a brush to pull it back nice and flat. And then once I've got it nice and flat, I'm going to use the bobby pins to secure it right next to where that bun is going to go. And before I pin it or anything, I'm taking it right down to her ear. Can you tilt your head just a tiny bit? This way, yeah. So I'm taking it right behind her ear. So I'm not pulling it straight back to where that bun is gonna go, because then that's not gonna create the distinct part that we want. So I'm making sure that I'm pulling it down by her face, so it's flat by her face, and then I'm gonna tuck it behind her ear, and then I'm gonna pin it down toward the bottom so that it still keeps that shape toward the front of her face. Sorry, just itching the face brush. Again, this may be something that you have to kind of go over a few times because it might want to just kind of pop out and not stay nice and smooth. So if that happens, it's not a big deal. So that's nice and tight against her head right now. I am going to pin it behind her ear right here. And then I'm going to go back and pin it by the bun. So right here, I'm going to go up right there. And then I'm going to crisscross the bobby pins so that the little ridges actually lock into place. And then I'll keep that nice and secure. So, and I did go with the bobby pins like this so that they're holding that hair and it's not letting it escape in that crook. So then as I pull this down, that's gonna stay nice and tight. It's gonna stay, it's not gonna do anything weird. And I'm just gonna pull this over, pin it right there, and then add that hair into the rest of the hair that I'm gonna twist up. And I'm going to crisscross the bobby pins again. Okay. All right, so now that that hair is pinned, I'm going to just twist that into the rest of this hair. Okay, can you look back straight again? And look down just a little bit. All right, now if anything has kind of come out of place since the last time that you were here working on the bun, then you can just kind of go back in and put some extra bobby pins in to make sure that things are still the way that you want them to be, and they haven't moved around. So this hair right here is kind of popped out a little bit, so all I'm gonna do is pull that down and then just stick an extra bobby pin in so that it is where I want it to be. And then I'm just gonna keep twisting. So here, and I'm only ever really doing about a 90-degree section at a time, so like a quarter of a circle. So if I do much more than that, it's not gonna stay nice and flat against the head like I want it to. So it's important that you're pinning as you go and you don't just kind of wrap it all up and then try to pin it at the end. All right, look down for me. And then once I get to about the bottom, I am going to stop again. And then I'm gonna do the other side. I'm gonna do that other side and smooth that and pull that back. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing on this side now. So I'm just gonna smooth this hair back, and remember, I'm not wanting to pull it back here because that's not gonna create the line and the part that we want. So I'm making sure that I'm pulling it down. I'm gonna pin it behind the ear first, and then I'm gonna pin it behind, right beside the bun. And then once that's there, I'm just adding that into the rest of that bun hair and gonna keep twisting it and pulling it up and around and over. All right, so now I'm just gonna keep twisting that bun and pulling it up and around. Before I do that, I am just gonna kind of add another layer of hairspray just to kind of hand smooth all of this down. And then once I get to these sections, like right here, I don't know if you can see, there's a little kind of bump right there where it's not just real tight to her head. I'm just gonna pull that down and secure that down before I put the bun there, okay? So right now, before you wrap the bun around the final time, this is when you wanna make any adjustments up here to the top. So I'm just gonna kind of brush those hairs down. And then as I'm doing this, I'm not pushing really hard, but I'm just pushing so that I can see if anything's really gonna move and if I need to readjust anything with those pins. So right here, I'm just gonna pull this down with my finger and then I'm gonna add in a pin right above it, and then I'm gonna slide it down just a little bit, okay? And once I get this hair wrapped around, I'm gonna actually stick a bobby pin through this pin. Okay, so I'm gonna stick a bobby pin coming down this way, and that'll help kind of anchor it to the head a little bit more to keep it from moving around. So I'm gonna do the same thing right here. Putting a pin right there. Making sure that that's nice and tight. So all of this should be really nice and smooth now. And then one over here. Now if your bun is perfect on top and you don't need to do this step, then you are free to skip it. But if you do have kind of those hairs that are not wanting to cooperate, then this is a good kind of way to trick it and cheat. All right, so I'm just gonna keep rolling this. Look straight to the back for me. And now I'm coming in, and I'm actually gonna hook this bobby pin through that one that was holding the side hair. So the one that was down by the base right here. I'm actually hooking the pin that I just put through the bun through that kind of security pin. And so that's just gonna help give it a little bit of extra hold. Anytime you can lock bobby pins together, it's a really good way to make things stay in place. So again, I'm doing that kind of up and back motion to make things stay. And then as I get right here, this hair is gonna cover up those pins that I put to keep the hair down and smooth. So like I said, I'm just gonna hook this through the bun, and then I'm gonna drive it down on top of that so that it stays nice and secure. Once you get to the end and you have these kind of short little baby hairs that don't want to all stay nice and together, I'm just going to use a little bit of gel or a little bit of hairspray to try to keep those ends from popping out. So just grabbing a little bit of gel and just kind of twisting that on. Now any pieces like this, so this is from that side, the left side piece that we pulled back, so it's longer than the other hairs because we pulled it back later, so it didn't have all of that twist around like the rest of her hair did. So this is fine. I'm just going to basically tuck it under everything else and then pin it to make sure that it stays. And then so these last little hairs right there, I'm just gonna grab them, and instead of laying them beside the rest of the bun, like so everything so far, nothing's been stacked. We want it to be as open and as flat as possible. But these last little hairs, I'm just gonna tuck underneath everything else and just kind of stick a bobby pin in them right here. And then I'm just gonna push that up and into the rest of the bun so that they're nice and hidden. Okay. And then if you have any other little pieces that are not wanting to cooperate, you can just add a bobby pin in there. I have like a little bump right here that I'm just gonna tuck a pin into and then slide it down. And then I'm gonna use a bobby pin to kind of hook into it to make sure that it doesn't slide back up. And then on the bun itself, I'm just gonna add a layer of hairspray. And then I'm just gonna use my fingers to kind of push those flyaway hairs down and make sure that they're not actually flying away. So at this point, we've got the bun finalized. Now, if you have hairs that are popping out everywhere, or if you have a lot of layers, if your child has hair that's not really cooperative, then you would need to put a hairnet over this. And if you're doing that, you would put it up tight against the bun and then pull it as tight as possible so that it's as flat and it makes everything lay down. And then you would wrap it, pull it around again, wrap it, pull it around again. Most of the time, you're gonna get 3 to maybe 6, depending on how thick the hair is, wraps of that. And then you would also wanna secure the edges of that hairnet with a bobby pin as well. Since Mackenzie's hair, I don't really have any flyaways. They're all pretty well contained. and they're all tamed. I'm not going to use a bobby pin or a hairnet for her. So that's kind of a thing that you need to just do depending on your child's hair type, kind of like the prep and the product before you start. So you need to decide, is your child's hair, does it need the hairnet or not? And if you ever have a question about that, you can just come ask one of the teachers, and we'll be more than happy to tell you if your child needs a hairnet or not. All right, so final look, we see that she's got her nice center part still, okay, and it's going down the center of her head, and then we see that the nice sides are not pulled back, but they're going down next to her face, behind the ear, and then same thing on the other side. So if you guys have any questions, if you just want to leave us a comment down below, we'll do our best to get back to you and answer any specific questions that you might have. Otherwise, I hope this has helped and that your competition season is great. So thanks for watching.